Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining me. I'm Minister James Moss here with another episode. It's continuing education. Continuing education. And even if you play this video 10 years from now, you're still going to learn something. That's the way God's word is. We can go over it and over it and over it again, and we're like, oh, I know it. I memorize it. Think of the verse that you memorize the most. What's the most memorable verse in the Bible that you can think of? Even if it's the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. If you meditate on that verse every day, you're going to get a different revelation every day. You're going to begin to understand things that was just so, it's like, oh, well, the first time I read it, man, I was like, wow, it was just because, Lazarus had died and, everybody was sad. But then now I really begin to see that he wept for deeper reasons. It wasn't just because he already knew that he was going to resurrect Lazarus. So the tears went deeper. He was touched by the sorrows and the compassion that people had. And then also he was also grieved because these people had God standing in their midst and could not see it. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that today. I just wanted to point out something to you that, hey, no matter how many times you read this, you're going to always you can come back to this thing a million times and you're going to get a million translations, a million revelations from God if you let his spirit minister to you. That's the power of the living word. So we are in the second epistle of John, okay? And we are in chapter 1, today we're going to cover verses 4 through 11. Live in the truth. All right. So listen, we're going to get right to it because this one is a little bit longer. It has a little bit longer commentary. So we want to make sure we get through it and, people are not sitting there. Yeah, that type of thing. All right, so introduction is Christianity has spread to many cities in the world. Sometimes there were several house churches in a city. True teachers and false teachers were proliferating. Proliferating. Because there were many false teachings about Jesus Christ in the days of the early church. The apostles had to describe which teachings about Jesus were true and which were false. Believers who adhered to the apostolic teachings, both in doctrine and in practice, were living in the truth. For the truth. Because, you had some people out there, man, it was, they was giving some jacked up information because you should follow me. You should follow me. All right, so here we go. We're going from verses 4 through 11. We're going to cover the commandment of love. We're going to talk about warning against deceivers. This ought to be good. And like I said, John's writing. Boom. He's just to the point. All right, here we go. I rejoiced greatly that I found of thy children walking in truth, as we have received a commandment from the Father. And now I beseech thee, lady, not as though I wrote a new commandment unto thee, but that which we had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that as ye have heard from the beginning, ye should walk in it. For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Jesus is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. Look to yourselves that we lose not these things which we have wrought, but that we receive a full reward. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Can't you feel it? All right, so here we go. We are going to the commentaries. All right, so bear with me here, okay? I'm going to try not to stumble too much, but, I never study these commentaries. I just, hey, read the word and then read it for the first time in front of you. So as I respond to it, it's because, hey, this is my first time reading it. There might be some things I'm like, ooh, but it's always good. So we're going to get this. We're going to share in this learning process together, right? Right. Okay. So here we go. Fourth verse. John had only met some of the believers in the church and was glad to find them living in the truth. John was probably speaking of those he met at some place or another, other than the local church itself. His joy at meeting them and then discovering that they were living in the truth prompted him to write this epistle. In identifying only some of the children, he was not necessarily excluding the others. Rather, he was speaking only of those he met. In both cases, the apostle rejoiced in the believers who had not allowed the false teachers to lead them away from the truth. So to him, it was like, whether he knew you or knew of you, if you were walking in the truth, he was excited. He was ecstatic to know that these people did not deceive you. All right. Living in the truth refers to the Christians conducting their lives as they had been commanded by the Father. The commandment to live in the truth came from the Father through the Son to the disciples, who passed it on to the believers, as John had explained in another letter. And this is his commandment. We must believe in the name of his Son, Jesus, and love one another just as he commanded us. To live in the truth, therefore, involves believing Jesus Christ as God's Son and loving others. Okay, so this is faith and action being put together. All right, verse 5. John urged the church to love one another. This was not a new commandment. The believers had heard this from the beginning. The Christians had been taught this commandment from the time they first heard the gospel preached. The statement that Christians should love one another is a recurrent New Testament theme. Love ye one another so that the world may know that ye are my disciples. All right. Yet love for one's neighbor is an old command, first appearing in the third book of Moses, which is Leviticus 19 and 18. Okay. Believers can show love in many ways by avoiding prejudice and discrimination, by accepting people, by listening, helping, giving, serving, and by refusing to judge. You mean I can't say nothing about my neighbor? No. No judging. But we see it a lot, right? Oh, yeah. Knowing God's command is not enough. Those who claim to love God and believe in his Son must put their faith into practice by loving. Yes. All right. Lest anyone wonder, and this is verse 6, lest anyone wonder what John meant by the word love, he explained it here. Love does not focus on emotions or feelings. Instead, love means doing what God has commanded. Love is expressed by obedience. Obedience fulfills the command to love. The one command to love one another sums up all of God's commands, and obedience to God's commands is the sure test of love. John made the same proclamation in his first letter. 4 times in verses 4 through 6 appears a form of the word command. Yet the commands are obeyed through love. John wanted his readers to know that he spoke as an elder, as an apostle, and as a loving father to his children, with authority from God himself. The false teachers had no such authority, and their lifestyles did not exemplify love. Any false teachers you can pretty much tell their lives don't exemplify love, because there is too much pride involved and too much vanity for love to thrive. It's a hack. We got a cheat. We found a cheat code. We found a crack. And yes, there's your cheat code and your crack for all false teachers. They don't operate in love. Okay. All right. So here we go. Verse 7. Here is the warning of this letter. Beware of the many deceivers, that is, the false teachers, who do not believe that Jesus Christ came to earth in a real body. A lot of the Pharisees just didn't think that was so, and they refused to accept it. John's first letter mentioned this heresy, where we find in First John chapter 4, verses 2 and 3, okay? Jesus had warned his disciples that false teachers would arise and lead many astray. Jesus' words had come true, for many of these false teachers had gone out into the world. One group in particular, called the Docetus, yeah. It's either Docetus or Docetus. I think it's Docetus. If somebody want to correct me on that, hey, inbox me. All right. But this one group, one particular group called the Docetus, denied Jesus' humanity and instead promoted the falsehood that he only seemed to have a human body. Believers, however, must hold on to what they believed, that Jesus is truly the Son of God who came to earth as a human. Okay? He is both fully human and fully God. Every false teacher is against Christ. He or she is a deceiver and an antichrist. So anybody that's a false teacher is against Christ. They're antichrist. We're just plain and simple. All right. Because what? We know that Christ is not the father of lies and deceptions. Satan is. So false teacher is a lying teacher, not of Christ. So he's got to be against Christ. All right. Okay. So these deceivers foreshadow the one final Antichrist who will embody all the deception of earlier anti-Christian systems and teachers. Many false teachers taught that the spirit is good and matter is evil. Therefore, they reasoned that Jesus could not have been both God and man. In strong terms, John warned against this kind of teaching, and he warned Christians, do not be deceived by what you're hearing. And not only don't be deceived, but don't give encouragement or hospitality to the people that are saying these things, these deceivers. All right. Many false teachers still promote an unbiblical understanding of Jesus. These teachers are dangerous because they distort the truth and undermine the foundations of the Christian faith. They use the right words, but they change the meanings. The way your teachers live shows a lot about what they believe about Christ. You don't say. All right, verse 8. John was warning believers to watch out and not be deceived. Jesus warned his disciples that many would come with lies and would try to deceive the believers. John did not want these believers to follow the lies of the false teachers and thus lose the prize that the apostles had worked to bring them, the gospel truth and the full reward for their loyal service. All who value the truth and persistently hold to it will win their full reward. Those who live for themselves and justify their self-centeredness by teaching false doctrines will lose that reward. All right. Keep that in mind. If you need something that you want to go to the scriptures, go to Matthew 7:21 and through 23 is a backup to that claim. All right. Verse 9. This verse explains the loss referred to in verse 8. John did not want the believers to lose what had been taught to them or brought to them, the teaching of Christ. This may refer to teaching about Christ, that he is the Son of God, or to Christ's teachings about loving others, such as recorded in verse 6, and then also you find it in John chapter 15, verses 12 through 17. John may have had both in mind because both are fundamental to the Christian faith. To wander beyond these teachings literally means leaning forward, to go before or to run ahead. This may be a sarcastic remark about the way in which the false teachers proudly claimed to be offering advanced teaching, but they had gone beyond the boundaries of true Christian belief and in the process had lost God himself. To turn away from the truth of Christ is to not have fellowship with God. In contrast, believers who continue in the teaching of Christ will find unbroken fellowship with both the Father and the Son. John had written previously, anyone who confesses the Son has the Father also. To have Christ is to have God, for they are one. Verses 10 and 11. In the early days of the church, believers met in homes. The only way to deal with a teacher who arrives and does not teach the truth about Christ is to refuse to welcome him or encourage him in any way. Yeah. put your foot down and say, no, we're not having it. If he was not teaching the truth, the believers must not even give him a hearing. In John's historical context, the command, don't invite him into your house, probably referred to a house meeting of the church, which would have been visited by various teachers traveling from local church to local church. All right. Listening to the false teachers, said John, would make a believer a partner in his evil work. So lending an ear to them, being sympathetic to what they got to say, makes you just as guilty. Encouraging or helping false teachers, even if an attempt to show Christian kindness identified believers with and tacitly gave approval of the false teachers. Believers cannot have a partnership both with God's children and also with Antichrist, who are God's enemies. Just can't happen. It may seem rude to turn people away, but how much better is it to be faithful to God than merely be courteous to people? John was not teaching that the church should not welcome unbelievers or even those who have been led astray by false teachers. He was teaching, however, that the door must be closed to those teachers who are dedicated to opposing the true teachings of God and who come to the church in order to bring their message. There's a difference between hospitality to strangers whom believers can win for Christ, and hospitality to those who are focused on winning believers away from Christ. Christians must trust God and discern the difference. So, as we wind this one up, if they're insistent on teaching bad doctrine, false doctrine, whatever, shun it. Get away from it. Don't have anything to do. Don't even give it room to grow. Banish it. All right. So, hey, I hope that you learned something. If you get a chance, go back, reread the scriptures, play the video back, and hear the commentary, and ask God, hey, look, help me understand, and help me see how I can apply this to my life and to my well-being. So until next time, thank you so much for your support of what we do here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember this always. Keep studying. God bless you.